mashing up the street, we here in the back. Level. Alright, the backyard making their own rhythm section. Alright, section 1, here one way to sing for me. Sing this.
Let me go.
Ping, 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 pa-ting. Ping, ping, nice.
I like it.
Section 2, join in with this one. Hey. Bang, bang, bing, bing, bang, 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 bang. Nice. Section 3, the sweet. This are the sections. Here what you singing. Lock up all the gates. If the police come, give them something to eat. We can't take it lock up all the time. The spirit is carnival. First job. Bolo, give my rose, Christy.
Make it two. I want one.
Chase are done. We have to drink straight.
Alright.
Look, the police coming, low down the music, the police is coming. I ain't taking no lock up for you know. You know they go call for my name. Hey officer, what's up? Up the street, we here in the back. Jam. We go tingy-licky. Israel vibes and we beating lion right here in the back. Jam. Hey, go straight in the kitchen. Grab a pot and then start beating. You hear me? Level. Alright, the backyard making their own rhythm section. Alright, section 1, here one way to sing for me. Sing this.
Let me go.
Ping, 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 pa-ting. Nice.
I like it.
Section 2, join in with this one. Hey. Bang, bang, bing, bing, bang, bang. Nice. Section 3, the sweet. This are the sections. Here we are singing. Nice. Oh, you're something good. Hey, let me jump. I can bring my friends and you could bring your friends and we friends will all like.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Joan Brammer, Attaché Public Affairs and Culture, Welcome to Mouth Open Story Jump Out, the very first Trinbagonian story slam put on by the Embassy of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Washington, D.C., in commemoration of Caribbean American Heritage Month. The national anthems of the United States of America and the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago will now be played by our panelist, Ms. Josanne Francis. To open this evening's proceedings, I now hand over to His Excellency Ambassador Anthony Wayne Jerome Philip Spencer, Ambassador to the United States and Permanent Representative to the Organization of American States and Coordinator CARICOM Caucus of Ambassadors. Ambassador?
Pleasant good evening, Mrs. Brahma. This is a special evening on the final day of the celebration of the Caribbean American Heritage Month in 2021. After 18 months where we have not been able to come together for the normal get-togethers and limes that we understand and know so well, as people who hail from the Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, inspired always by our motto that together we aspire, together we achieve. It's a special evening that amidst Caribbean American Heritage Month, we can pause and right here from Washington, D.C. at our embassy, get together, granted virtually, to share our stories. You know, we are people that I always say history seems to have conspired to bring us together from every corner of this planet with stories that we have learned from our parents, grandparents, that have continued to guide us as we have faced challenges of life, as we have for the past 18 months. This evening, many of us will get to share some of those stories. Those stories now will come flavored with the experience of life in the United States of America. Having left the shores of Trinidad and Tobago, many of us have come to this land of the free and have pursued life, happiness, and have succeeded immensely. Along the way to that success, there are many stories that many of us simply do not know. And this evening, we will get to hear some of those stories. I'm certain that those stories will inspire us all as a people. I'm sure we'll hear of the ways in which communities of our own fellow men and women have come together to overcome challenges. We will hear of stories where, in spite of and against all the odds, our fellow men and women have succeeded. We just heard one of our most talented steel pan musicians, who I'm certain in her own life story here in the United States has had to overcome. She has persevered, and now she is one of our fellow women in whom we are so proud. We must continue to be proud of each other. We must continue to value each other, take each other seriously, respect each other, and remember always that in spite of any challenge that comes our way, as a people we have learned that together, once we keep aspiring, we will keep achieving. I look forward to listening to the stories this evening. Stories that I'm sure I will take inspiration from. I want to thank every association that will be represented among our storytellers. No one will tell our story better than ourselves. I want to pay a special commendation to Mrs. Joan Brammer, our Culture and Public Affairs Attaché at our embassy. When we met in our management team meeting in May, I challenged the management team. I said, listen, in Caribbean American Heritage Month, let's find a way to connect with our diaspora and celebrate Caribbean American Heritage Month. This evening's event is the result of a brilliant idea. Absolutely brilliant. And you would note that this event has now been presented as an inaugural event. I want to say to Mrs. Brammer again, highest commendation to you and to the other members of our mission team who have been particularly engaged in managing the preparations for this event. Mrs. Christiane Stewart, our missions community relations officer, and also the intern at our mission, Ms. Chanel Best. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow men and women, I am ready to hear some stories. But I know that before we do that, Mrs. Brammer has another special treat for us. Thank you once again. Happy Caribbean American Heritage Month. And may God continue to bless us all and bless our great nations, the United States of America and Trinidad and Tobago. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Anthony Wayne Jerome Philip Spencer. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I have a very special guest. So I'm not going to give away anything. I'm just going to start with my introduction, and then you will all know who my special guest is. Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley was born in Mason Hall, Tobago, and was raised by his grandparents who were prominent Tobago farmers. He completed his early childhood education at Bishop's High School, Tobago. He then proceeded to the University of the West Indies, Mona Campus, Jamaica, where he graduated with first-class honors. He completed his master's at the UE campus, St. Augustine in Trinidad. He's a volcanologist who obtained his doctorate in geology. He first ran for political office in 1981, where he contested the Tobago West seat. To date, he has the distinction of being the only People's National Movement candidate to have contested a seat in a general election in both Trinidad and Tobago. He is the member of the House of Representatives for Diego Martin West in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago, where he has represented that constituency since 1991. Dr. Rowley first served in Parliament in 1987 and has held several cabinet portfolios. He was appointed Opposition Leader of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago in 2010 and Political Leader of the People's National Movement. On September 7th, 2015, Dr. Rowley led the People's National Movement to general elections victory and became our country's 7th Prime Minister. On August 10th, 2020, after another general election victory, Dr. Rowley once again led his party home and served and returned to serve as Prime Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, our Prime Minister and Chairman of CARICOM, Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley.
Hello, Caribbean people. It is my pleasure to extend greetings on behalf of the government and people of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago in my capacity, also as chairman of CARICOM. To you, my fellow citizens of the Caribbean diaspora, as we celebrate Caribbean American Heritage Month. You and your foreparents would have left the region for myriad reasons, but you still consider the 20 sun-kissed jewels of paradise, bordered by the Caribbean Sea, our home. We see you with your undying love for our nations through your dedication and commitment as you continue to fly high and proud the flags of the region, representing us in sports, business, science, entertainment, and so much more. The region's economies and its individual nations benefit whenever you return for celebrations, festivals, and even those short vacations. We are particularly proud of and encouraging to those of you who have chosen to invest directly in your respective islands. The fact that we all can gather today, virtually or otherwise, to celebrate our stories, those stories that make us who we are, is a testament to our resilience as a Caribbean people. The true value of our culture, so rich and so diverse, has not yet been fully appreciated and monetized. Festivals like these can serve as a launchpad for future endeavors of one kind or another. I would like to, on this occasion, specially thank my ambassador, Anthony Philip Spencer, his cultural attaché, Mrs. Joan Brammer, and the team for formulating and executing this wonderful idea. You have made us all very proud. So let me start the proceedings, as they say in our homeland, as I'm sure many of you would say in your homeland, in the Caribbean. Crick, crack, monkey, break your back for a piece of pomerac.
Thank you, Dr. Rowley. And now I'm going to hand you guys over to Dr. Lauren Semper Scott, and she is going to introduce all our storytellers. So over to you.
Thank you, madam. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I'm not sure if this is punishment or an honor, but I will do my very best. The thing that has come through my mind all along is I old, watching Ricky Tikki Tavi and listening to him tell stories. And so all I recall from childhood is, as the Prime Minister just said, crick crack monkey. So we're gonna get started today with our first storyteller. He is Mr. Sekou Cox, a member of CIC North America. So the floor is yours. We are eager to hear your story.
Yes, greetings to everyone. Thank you for joining us on this story panel. So Sekou Cox, as I said, representing CIC North America. So I did attend sixth form at CIC, and previously to that, I went to QRC for forms 1 to 5. So that was a big controversy, making the switch across the pond. And yeah, my story, I would say, started right after leaving St. Mary's College and coming to New York to join my family. So I come from a household with, I grew up in Laventille, Success Village, right opposite Fernandez, Angostura. And, you know, my family had the opportunity to migrate to the US, but we had to do it in parts because, as I said, we had a big family. So my dad, when he was able to come up and he saved enough money, he purchased tickets for myself and my siblings to come. So my time came around right at the end of lower 6, which was in April 2001, and I was able to come and join them here. And, you know, when I got to New York at that time, I really did not have a firm plan of what I wanted to do with my life. So, you know, I was thinking then, you know, maybe I would work, maybe I would go to school, but I actually did not know much about either. So I started in the first place that I knew how, which was in the Yellow Pages. Opened up the Yellow Pages, started to do some research about universities. You know, maybe I could find something there. No one else in my family had attended college before me. So I found 2 schools. St. John's University, I was very familiar with that school because of their basketball and soccer team. And then I found another school which I'd never heard about, Columbia University. So I looked at both sections, found the numbers for the soccer coaches, called, left a message, say, hi, my name is Sekou Cox, just came from Trinidad, I'm 170 pounds, I'm a good student, and a good soccer player. If you all see me play, I think you all would want me to play for your school. In, you know, talking just as I talk now, at that time I didn't have any US twang. So didn't hear anything from it, forgot about that plan. But a few days later, one of my brothers told me that somebody left a message for me on the house phone, and it was the Columbia coach. He happened to call back to say, hey, I got your message, just return a call. If you get a chance, call me again. So I did, playing full tag. The second time, he happened to answer the phone, and then he explained me that there was this NCAA rule, which is the governing body for college athletics, that every school in the country has to mandate 1 day in the fall, 1 day in the spring for students in the school to walk on who want to try out the team. So he would allow me, even though I wasn't a student, to try out with the walk-ons. So as long as I could find my way up to the Columbia Stadium, which was 200 and something straight in Manhattan. So I did. I actually didn't know how to take the train well. I took the train local all the way up there, even though there was an express option. It took me way longer than I should. My dad and I went to be on a nice spring day. It wasn't a nice spring day for me. It was mid-April, and I remember freezing getting into Columbia Stadium. And, you know, I got there. This is the first time I'm meeting this person after speaking to him on the phone one time. And he put me with the students who were trying out for the team. Then there was the actual Columbia soccer team. And then, you know, we played a little scrimmage. And then at the end of the scrimmage, He asked me my SAT score and very casually said, you know what, I'm going to get you into Columbia next year. Very casually. I never met this person before, didn't know about school. So I also casually said, oh yeah, that sounds great. So then I leave, we exchange numbers, and then I'm kind of going about my business and telling people, hey, you know, like a couple of days ago, a couple of weeks ago, I like went up to Columbia. The guy liked me, told me he's going to get me into school, right? And as I'm telling people this, I start to see that people are way more amazed at the story than me. Because again, I honestly never heard about the school, and I didn't realize much of a deal with it, right? But of course, as the year goes along, you know, my knowledge of the university system gets a little better, and then I get to realize that, you know, Columbia is a pretty serious school, right? And, you know, fast forward, and this ended up being a big transformation for myself and my whole family. But when I tell the story, you know, the truth is, as I tell people, it's like a combination of, there's grace in it, right? Because, you know, it really could have been me sitting here telling the story of going to, you know, St. Francis College or Medgar Evers, with nothing wrong with those schools, but, you know, there was a large slice of luck that it happened to be Columbia University that I put my finger on that day. You know, what I also tell people in that story is there's also the element of somebody taking a leap of faith on somebody else, right? The Columbia coach at that moment, he had the power in his hand to make the decision, I say for this, you know, what he assessed in a few seconds, this strong student, decent soccer player from Trinidad, to give him this opportunity to do something transformative to his life, you know. And then there's still also the piece of just, I would say, individual hard work and drive, where I always had it in my head, you know, something had to work out. I'm going to keep moving forward. And, you know, this opportunity, you know, really worked out for me and changed my life. So, you know, those are like 3 points that I like to use to illustrate the story, but I kind of keep in my life now. And even with the crew of guys that I have with CIC North America, some of them I did go to school with that 1 year here, but, you know, there's a bunch of entrepreneurs, a lot of people in the private sector. Some of them are, you know, business owners, educators, and, you know, we are like trying to do things to like uplift the Trinidad community. I'm also part of the ICT advisory group, but like keeping those ideas in mind that, you know, no matter what they're in, you know, keep your eyes moving forward, having faith things gonna work out, the grace will be there. And then also when in that position, just thinking about the people who you have the power to help, that it really might seem something small, but it could be really transformative for their lives, you know? So yeah, that's my story, you know, put on my little blue and white, CIC love, and, you know, thank you all for listening.
Well, so that is a serious story. Fortunately for you, I am equal opportunity. You bleed blue and you USC Mary. So I will not hold either one against you. They will, you know, neutralize each other. Thank you for the story. You know, everybody has a story. Every story has some kernel. And I think you captured that very clearly for us at the end when you pointed out the whole notion of perseverance, your work ethic, keeping your eyes forward, but also the willingness to look back. None of us gets anywhere without either a helping hand, a gentle breeze to keep us moving, or a rising tide to lift us. It doesn't always have to be something geographical or, you know, environmental. It could be a person doing any one of those things. So we thank you for your story. We thank you for sharing. And we look forward to how what you have shared becomes seed for somebody else, because all of these stories that we're going to hear, everything that we hear is in fact us individually and collectively sowing into the universe affirmation of our individual stories. You know, Trinidad and Tobago not tiny sweet, you know, the Caribbean islands not just tiny sweet, you know, we might be small, but we are all mighty as individual islands and as a collective known as the Caribbean. So we moving now from up north, kind of sort of, we're going to Georgia. Mr. Rodney Foster, representing the Trinidad and Tobago Association of Georgia. It is your turn to share with us your story. The floor is yours, sir. Have I lost him?
Yes, are you hearing me now?
We can indeed, sir.
Good. Well, my story started in 1970 when I came up on my first visit to New York. I stayed by my uncle Theophilus Chapman and his wife Brenda Chapman. I fell in love with Brooklyn and I loved New York. And I vowed to return after I fulfill my required service to the government. I graduated from Mosika Teachers College in 1968, and I had promised that I would serve the country for 5 years. During my stay here in 1970, I wanted to come back and further my studies in New York. I wanted to become a guidance counselor. So in 1973, I returned to Brooklyn, and my story today is one of thanks. Thanks to my sponsors, cousin Jean Leon from Lotten, and her husband, Hansel Leon, who died last year. Some of you all might recall he was the first COVID death in Trinidad. I was down there visiting, and I owe Hani, as we call him, one of the best iron man from Trinidad. He could beat iron. And my cousin, Jean, they put me up at their home, a one-bedroom apartment, 60 Clarkson Avenue between Bedford and Flatbush. When Hani picked me up at JFK, I told the man, own the place. If you see speed, he drives past, and he plays his music loud and louder. At that time, they had the eight-track tapes, and he greeted me with pan music, Silver Stars, Penny Lane, and Ghost Riders in the Sky. In tutus, we pull up in front of 60 Clarkson Avenue. I never see so much car on our street, so, but Hani is the best parallel parker I ever meet. He says 6 inches in front and 6 inches behind, that is a park. We park up and then we head into the building, 60 Clarkson Avenue. My cousin Jean and Hani, they provided me with a high riser. All you remember high riser? Every home then had a high riser in the 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom. A seat during the day and a bed at nighttime. So it was during summertime, July, and it's just like Trinidad, so we party and party. Labor Day is a different story though. As soon as the last van passed on Eastern Parkway and the sanitation truck going down the road, the temperature does change, it does drop. Ask any Trini, it does drop. I said, Rodney, what are you doing here, boy? But I was intent on becoming a student, so I focused now on entering Brooklyn College. When I went to Brooklyn College, this work-study student watched at me with all my credentials. 2 years in Mosika, teacher's diploma, 5 years teaching experience, and she wanted to give me 12 credits. Well, you know, Trini, I almost started a course, but they won't understand me anyhow. So I decided to be calm and sophisticated. I said, all right, I'll be back. I sent home to Mrs. Coffey and my good friend Joan Choi to send up the school curriculum and my transcript. And Trini smart too bad. I like Brenancy. I went from department to department and showed them our coursework and their coursework. Make a long story short, When I finished with them, so I had 68 credits. 68 from 128. I finished my bachelor's in 2 years. And then they tell me I did so well, I get magna cum laude. That is a good grading. But I had the other course, the guidance and counseling. You had to go for your master's. Well, I went through that too after 2 years. So I became a guidance counselor. But here's a story now. When I go back home to see if they're ready for me, them ready yet in Trinidad, boy. They say they ain't accredited or some kind of thing. But the woman didn't promise me much. So I come back up. Oh, by the way, during that time, I get married, you know. Look my wife here, boy. Come show your face, girl. Come show your face. Show your face. There have been angels in my life. And my cousin Jean introduced me to Marjorie. Marjorie Allet from San Fernando. She is one of them nurses from batch 17 that represented part of the brain drain that the US was working on we. They take it teachers. Anytime you qualify in Trinidad, you can get a visa easier. So brother, sister, in Brooklyn, I got married in 1974. So much years that is, girl? 46 or 47? 47 years, same woman, boy, same wife. And I tell you, I have angels in my life, and you all are angels in my life. I've written 2 books, and it's Trini that helped me write them books. One is called Remember When. This is the first edition, and this is the second edition. And then I wrote a second book, first edition, Walk in My Shoes. Second edition, Walk in My Shoes. It's angels that helped me produce that book. My partner, Vincent Bain from Los Angeles, and Royce Russell. And then the second edition is a woman who started the graphic arts program at Kennesaw State University, Carol Moje Lewis. So I have been helped all along, and I want to emphasize giving thanks. I thank Trinidad, I thank Samoa Barataria, because from Samoa, you're assertive. I push pan with Samoa All Stars, you understand? And you don't mess with Samoa people in them days. But as also diplomatic, Samoa Barataria. When I want to come across heavy, I from Samoa. You hear how I pronounce that? Samoa! Man used to quake for that, boy. And if I want to play cool, I from Barataria. So, Mr. Ambassador, Mr. Prime Minister, I thank you all for giving me this opportunity this evening. I'm coming out with another book, you know.
Oh, Lord.
Let's talk. Let's talk. Can we talk? We have to continue that. Thank you very much.
Well, sir, I don't know how I will follow you with all of that heavy thing. What I did notice, however, is when you're ready to go polite, you call it what? Calm and polite. But when you don't want to go that route and you want to go rank Trini, you're going heavy with the same walk. I'm keeping my eye on you, sir. Thank you for the story. Marjorie, he didn't mean to embarrass her like that. She didn't say she wanted to be on the screen yourself.
Tell me about it.
My goodness.
I must give you a page, but because 47 years, with 47 years, girl.
That is what will keep you all going. We thank you for this story. We thank you for sharing. You know, our condolences to you in the loss of your cousin. The thing I take away from your story, though, is the quality of the education system in Trinidad and Tobago is well known. I don't think that we in Trinidad appreciate it. But when you leave and you go somewhere else, you find that the things that you learned in your little 1x1, 2x2, hot, sweaty classroom, out in the playground by the standpipe, the things that you learned when you were in Trinidad, you come and you discover, but wait, they don't know that? How they know that? So I appreciate and applaud your perseverance and your persistence that resulted in you getting more credits than they were willing to offer. The lesson that we can share and pass on to others in that story is value, treasure the education that you get in Trinidad, and then leverage it. The other part of the story, which I will not continue with you, is the business of what happened when you're ready to go back. That's a separate story for another day. I am sure the ambassador will call me to task for a different meeting. But for today, sir, I thank you for your story. I thank you for sharing. Now we're going to move on to the next storyteller, a young lady who will represent Trinidad and Tobago Association of Baltimore, Miss Chrislyn Graves. Cannot wait to hear what your story is. So I am going to yield the floor to you now, Miss Chrislyn, for you to share with us your story.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Chrislyn Graves. I live here in Maryland and have been here for a little over 30 years. I know I look like I'm 12, but I am not. They do say that the black don't crack, so here it is. I have been involved with the Trinidad and Tobago Association ever since I moved to Maryland. And over the years, I have presented, performed some pieces. And so when I was asked to do something, I decided to write because that is what I do. This piece that I'm actually going to read from because I don't want to miss anything, I called the Re-Education of Chrislyn Lucas, which was my former name. So thank you for your time. In 1990, shortly after the infamous Abu Bakr coup in Trinidad, I arrived in New York's JFK airport, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, eager to begin my US adventures. My mom, who had migrated 2 years earlier, came to pick me up along with her friend. We spent the night in the Bronx and started our 4-hour drive down to Maryland early the next morning. A little background before I go any further. I grew up in Faizabad, South Trinidad, and was raised by a single mother who did the best that she could with what she had. She was never given the opportunity to attend high school, but she made sure that I was focused on my education. Because of her dedication, I was able to attend St. Joseph's Convent, San Fernando. Convent must represent. My mom wanted more from life for me than what she had. So we discussed it and she decided to leave. Those 2 years without her were very difficult. Eventually it affected my grades and they all of them started slipping. One day while in Form 5, I was summoned into the office by my principal, a no-nonsense nun, who also happened to be my cousin. She did not mix words and in no uncertain terms told me that if I didn't settle down and apply myself, I would not be accepted back for A-levels. Well, Papayo, in my mind, I was thinking, I'm not coming back anyhow. I going to live in America? Anyway, back to the story. So because my mom had some friends who knew the ropes, when we got to Maryland, she gave me 3 choices. Now, anyone who knows me knows that I love options. I could get my GED, which is an alternative to a high school diploma, go back to high school for a year, or go straight on to community college. GED I could easily do because my brain was fresh from studying for CXC. Going back to high school was a definite no. I had recently graduated and had absolutely no desire to go back through that again. So community college was the best choice for your girl. In no time flat, we went up to the local community college. I enrolled and started the process to get the show on the road. Well, what I forgot to mention is that at that time, I had no green card. So I was considered an international student. I chose business management with a concentration in human resources as my major and registered as a full-time student. Then we got the bill. Oh gosh, my mom had been saving money along the way, but when I saw those numbers, All I could do was multiply by 6. 1 US equals 6 TT. I almost had a mini heart attack, yes? I was used to buying books, but tuition was another story. And I'm sorry, it was another story. Whew, let me calm down, I'm a little excited. We left and I did not say a word for the rest of the night. I couldn't even eat and I love my belly bad. I had to postpone my grand plans for college life, but eventually we figured things out. I worked hard to complete my associate's degree, got a scholarship for my bachelor's, and even went on to attain my master's. Now today, more than 30 years later, things have come full circle as I prepare to send my daughter off to college. She has some scholarships and we have diligently been saving for this day. She will never know the stress that I faced. My mom's sacrifices paved the way and laid the foundation for her granddaughter to reap the rewards. Thank you.
Mrs. Graves, first to begin, congratulations on the inaugural presentation of that piece of work. Yes, I've typed it in the chat already. Big up St. Joseph's Convent. Even as a bishop's person, I don't have any problem saying big ups to St. Joseph Convent. But did you get a memo that says you must tell a story that make bleed people's heart? Come on now. I was good until you bring the daughter. I mean, I have a daughter too, I'll bring her, but that whole piece about connecting the dots. Faizabad, your mother, her sacrifices. You see, I almost in tears myself. Her sacrifices, your work, the next generation, a step ahead. I thank you for the story. I thank you for the message. I'm listening to stories, making notes, trying to decide what to say, if not to say, listening and processing. So the first story we had, the young man talked about Colombia. Then the second story, somebody talked about Mausica. Whew, you come now with your, almost put you out of St. Joseph's Convent, you're not coming back, set you straight. What is called that? That was a come to somebody kind of conversation you got there, set you straight, and you come up here and you, 1 to 6, and some of us started in America when it was 1 to 7, 8, 9, and that kind of madness, right? And here we are now. A continuing thread has been the value of the education, whatever shape or form it takes. And what I like about the story is community college. Everybody like to feel you had to go big name. No. It's not where you go. It's what you do with where you go. So here you are now with your degree and your writing and a young lady who is standing on the shoulders of not 1, but 2 strong West Indian women. So we thank you for your story. Congratulations to the young lady. Best to her and continued best to you. Again, thank you for your story. Ms. Brahma, you didn't tell me this work was so emotional, Yusuf. So now we're going to turn, I'm reading a name here, it looked like somebody I know, but I could be wrong. Mrs. Lorna Green, it says here, Cultural Academy for Excellence. I'm from the Maryland area. I don't know more that. I just know it as cafe. Hola, lady. You didn't tell me it's going to bounce like this. So I am looking forward to hearing your story. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you. And thanks to the ambassador and the staff at the embassy. I have my story. I'm listening to all the others, but it's pretty much along the same thing. I grew up in Trinidad, lived in Barataria, in Malik, and my brother was the first junior track star to win a scholarship to the States, to the United States. And my mother worked for Petroleum and Mines at the time, and the exchange for the money, although it was a full scholarship, she couldn't afford it. So she decided to give up her job. John O'Halloran told her, no, stay, it's gonna get better. She says, I gotta go. And she came up here, worked as a domestic, and then went to nursing school. She brought up her 4 children. I was the last to come. And I remember arriving in the airport in JFK. So This time, I'm 121 pounds, miniskirt in fashion, and I'm off the plane, and you had to walk the tarmac. 26th of October, 1969, I will never forget that day. Got on that tarmac, and it was so cold. My mother is waiting inside with the coat. The first thought was, the next plane, I going back home. I ain't staying here at all, it's too cold. Well, that didn't happen, of course, because you come into your mom and you had to do what she said. And I stayed and I worked at Chase Manhattan Bank. They paid for me to go to school, to college, finished that, and then I met my husband of 43 years, who is African American. And what won me over with him is that his biggest attraction was that he was taking me somewhere warm. So I said, good, I'm definitely marrying him. He brought me to Maryland. So to this day, I tell him, you still owe me a move. However, it was that move that brought me into the Trinidadian and the West Indian community. I didn't have much of it living in the Bronx in New York. And it brought me very close to my roots. I saw the community, a lot of the Howard graduates, they were all here, but I didn't know any of them because I'm from New York. I worked at Children's Hospital and I met Cheryl Clement, and she introduced me and brought me into the culture. And through her, I was introduced to her sister, Maureen Clement. You Bishop's girls will know her. And I sent my daughter to Trinidad to be with Maureen to a pan camp. That was the beginning of change for my life. And when I saw my daughter come back, this quiet, brilliant child who never really spoke much, but when she played that pan, she was alive and it was a different person. So, and she joined a group, and Trini is how we are, saying, I think we could use this to do something else. And I went to the director and I told him, I said, I would like to bring an academic component because I think the kids would really benefit from something like that. And he said, go ahead. So I decided that I wanted to start the Cultural Academy for Excellence. And I used the steel pan to promote that education that I wanted those kids to just have a sense of pride, self-esteem when they play the pan. I saw a joy, a life that came into being. The children were transformed. And my first music teacher, my first co-director was Leon Smooth Edwards. I'll never forget him. He was there with me and he supported me. I remember someone saying to me, well, why don't you teach piano? I said, no, I don't want to teach piano. I know about the pan and I'm seeing what it's doing for kids, not only my daughter and the students here, but in Trinidad, I started going now for carnival and it was just amazing. So with the steel pan, the sense of pride and so on that the kids had, and it was to teach young people in the community about the greatness of their ancestors in science, in math, in engineering, in music, and the impact and legacy those ancestors have made on every continent. The story of Pan is a metaphor for the rise and success of African culture. One of the best history books written about the steel pan came out this year. It's written by Trinidadian-born Dr. Kim Johnson, a graduate of Trinity College. And I urge everyone to get a copy of that book because when you're reading it, you get a sense of the struggle and how we as a people, no matter what the obstacles, we survived. Through my journey, my students and I have met with presidents, ambassadors, countless celebrities, community leaders. Those opportunities have allowed our students to dare to dream. Some of my greatest moments are seeing our students present at Princeton University at the Young Women in STEM conference. They presented on the physics of sound from metal to music. The joy they have expressed at winning 3 panoramas at Virginia Fest, taking them to Trinidad, taking them to Senegal, the travel, the education that they get, you cannot even get it in a classroom. All of this through PAN. My personal Senegal experience was to be invited by Boston University to give a 2-week workshop at St. Louis University. I took Maureen Clement with me. And to be invited back by the State Department to conduct a series of NGO workshops in Dakar. We took our kids to Canada. This is one of the most rewarding moments of my life. I usually leave it for last because it's, emotional. So Millerville University in Pennsylvania invited us out for a seminar workshop performance. And the final performance, the kids got a standing ovation from the college students, most of them not of our race. Some of them came up and asked the kids for their autographs. And the thing that stuck with me forever will be, one of the young men came up to me, a young boy, he was 12, and he held me tight just as he was about to get on the bus. And he said, "Mrs. Green, I never thought in my entire life, 12 years old, that anyone would ask me for my autograph." All about steel pan. The first steel band to perform at the Smithsonian African American Museum. We have looked and we have experienced and witnessed Cafe alums become doctors. We have PhDs, we have lawyers, entrepreneurs, DJs. We even have a pilot and a Fulbright scholar. All about PAN. That's PAN. These thoughts or stories shared today would not have happened without strong community support from professional, volunteers, teachers who continue to believe in our mission. I see Chandler Powell, the Embassy of the Trinidad and Tobago Association, other cultural organizations. Our Caribbean diaspora is a community who have given of themselves to ensure that our future generation understand and recognize the power they have within them to accomplish anything that they desire. CAFE is transitioning now to a younger generation of musicians and leaders, and we are excited about the future. Trinidad's gift to the world showcases the cultural and scientific genius of our people. And I want the next generation and future generations to understand the impact of that achievement. I am proud to be a Trinidadian. I'm proud to be descendants, to be an American. My mother was from Sixth Company, Moruga. And I know that together as a community, even through this COVID, we will continue to rise and our future generation will be able to accomplish anything their heart desires. And I urge you in closing, get this book. It's excellent. It's a history book for me. And I thank you for giving me this opportunity.
I am going to have to talk to Mrs. Brahma because I thought I was just here to, listen and think, but these stories are strong, emotional, riveting. And I I'm listening and typing my comments in the chat. I hope I'm not talking to myself, but anybody else who is on the in the presentation, participants, please feel free to write, make notes. A couple of people have said some things, but Miss Lady, we take so much for granted, and I think that's a good thing and a bad thing for us as a nation. We are not conscious about the power of the music. And then by extension, we haven't really wrapped our minds around. We say very glibly, the only instrument invented, but we don't even understand what it means to have had a thought that led to a drum, a beat once, twice, three times, four times, and then to have people become regarded as the father of. And you start to talk about, now years later, we're talking about people who are superior at tuning a pan. We just listening to the music and not recognizing the layers of ingenuity, creativity, and talent. And that's for the people who want to be in music. But even for those who are engaged in it just to learn, that whole cultural thing you just lay out there, that's a whole meal. That is a full meal. Appetizer, salad, first course, dessert, the whole entire meal. So I thank you certainly for following your passion. Yes, ma'am.
One thing I wanted to say, and I forgot because I get very emotional when I do these things.
I noticed.
Is that whole, the steel pan, children learn very quickly. It is an easy instrument to learn, but it's hard to master.
Yep.
That repetitiveness, all that diligence, it also transfers to the academics.
Oh, yes.
So that is why we have been so successful. Only about 1% of our students ever go on to do music. The other 99, they're straight A's academic, and they can do. And that is another side of the power of that instrument.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Dr. Semple.
Oh, you are quite welcome. The thought, when Josanne was playing the US national anthem and then the Trinidad and Tobago national anthem, all I kept saying to myself is, people really don't know, I mean, she make it sound smooth, like silk. And
credit to her, that is our executive director. The future is in her hands, and the head of the music department. A former teacher, we have it all.
Well, I appreciate you sharing this story. We have a lot to learn. Self-love is a huge thing. Love of country, love of culture, and then the perseverance to continue to advance it for a new generation. Some children who may never get to the island, but will have learned the lilt and the rhythm of the music and the culture through your work, yours and your husband. So I thank you. When next I talk to him, I'll have to remind him that here is not far enough south for warm. So yes, he really thinks here with that one, but I'll talk to him offline about that one. Thank you, my dear, for your story. I'm going to move now to Mr. Hodge, who is based in New Jersey, and he will represent the American Caribbean Alliance Foundation. Mr. Keith Hodge, the floor is now yours.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can indeed, sir. Welcome.
Okay, well, okay, I don't know if you can see me. Let me try to get that up and
Not
running.
yet.
Okay, hang in there. Hello, everybody. Hello.
Yes.
Okay, here I go. Take this off. But it's good. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is awesome. My name is Keith Hodge, and I'm with the American Caribbean Alliance Foundation of Trinidad and Tobago, based here in the Delaware Valley, Southern New Jersey, Philadelphia area. And I want to say greetings and happy Caribbean American Appreciation Month to all. Thank you so much, to our ambassador and for our prime minister who started us all. We want to give glory and thanks to God Almighty, absolutely, for this wonderful occasion and for creating this amazing forum. May it continue to grow. This is great, and multiply. Folks, well, a little bit about myself. These stories are amazing that I'm hearing. And it is so good that our ambassador has brought the diaspora of Trinidad and Tobago groups as we continue to put together the positive side of TNT, representing not only Trinidad and Tobago, but the Caribbean, for we are totally unique people. And we always represent, whether it was Federation or CARICOM, we have always taken the lead representing Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean. All right, so a little bit about myself. I came to this US mostly through where everybody landed. And I remember landing at JFK with my brother and sister to meet my mom, who came on ahead. I was around 18, which is a little while ago. All right, and I know that the first thing I remember understanding that back then, GCE and the things that you brought up here academically were not exactly appreciated or understood or acknowledged by the schools here. So I remember going to New York City Community College, New York City College, and presenting them with these papers, and they basically looked at it and said, "What's this? You got to go back to school, high school, and get a GED, a high school diploma." Now, I just came out of St. Benedict's College down south and some other schools, and said, okay. So what I did was I went back to high school, and at the same time, I just gotten a job, my first job, working for New York City Social Services, which is the welfare department, which, by the way, lasted for about 4 years until they had to let a lot of us go. But to go back, to get into school, back then, you had to go back to high school and get the diploma. So what I did was I started going to night classes while working during the day, go to classes at night. And then they said, well, the test is really going to be taken next week, but if you come and wait, they'll let you sit the test to see if, to get a feel of it. Because a lot of times some people don't show up. So I was like a replacement. So I said, fine. So that's what I did. And lo and behold, not only did I take the test, but I passed it. So I didn't need to go back to school again. So I got my high school diploma and went on to New York City College, Community College, Brooklyn College, Medgar Evers College. Those of you who from New York know what I'm talking about. And we moved on. So I started working then and continued working till today. Right now, we started the American Caribbean Alliance Foundation of Trinidad and Tobago, the Trinidad and Tobago American Alliance also. And what we do over here in Philadelphia area is we celebrate big time Trinidad and Tobago independence celebration. Now, Philadelphia already has their carnival, as people know, which is Father's Day weekend on the Saturday, right in the park. But what we celebrate greatly is the Trinidad and Tobago independence. And what we do a flag raising at City Hall, which is right here. And we do a free concert at the Liberty Bell, which we call Let Steel Pan Ring at the Liberty Bell. So the concert is Let Steel Pan Ring, where we get the local steel pans to come and perform. And we've been doing that for the last few years, and it's been very successful. And right now, actually, we are in the process of working with our schools in the area, the school board, the school parents board, to work on getting the steel pan taught in the schools. Now, the last speaker was so right when she said that the steel pan is our national instrument. And not only ours, but now representing the entire Caribbean. Is the only instrument that can sustain an entire orchestra, just steel pans alone, as we all know. Born in Trinidad and Tobago, yes, but now, because just about every Caribbean country has a steel pan, or few, we can now say the steel pan represents the entire Caribbean, folks. And we are so proud to be able to do this and share this. And as our speaker said, academically, they found out that these kids not only do not join other gangs because they're already in the steel pan gang, if you know what I mean, but they do better at school. When they go to do this school, whatever it takes to make music from an old steel drum, an oil drum that awakens in the brain. When they go to do academic work, they are able to do it much, much better. And, you know, the steel pan itself brings an aura of peace. It has its own spirit, the music. And we find, look, it took somebody, another country, for us to really begin to realize that. So, yeah. And when, for example, when our friends in Nigeria, if everybody remembers, went to Trinidad, to put together a steel pan, they got permission. They now have a factory in Lagos, Nigeria, that not only supplies steel pan to Nigeria, but through the entire Africa, as we know. But the side effect of this was, because the steel pan is now also taught in all your schools in Nigeria, or many of the schools in Nigeria, the kids taking these steel pan home, bore that spirit, and so everybody was affected. And now Nigeria, instead of being the place of murders and killings worldwide, is now pretty much almost peaceful. I say almost because they always have something going on, but just the spirit of the pan, bringing that peace, bringing that calmness. Why Trinidad always so easygoing, you know, as opposed to some of the other places, we can attribute it to the pan. So again, I just want to thank our ambassador for this amazing forum that he has put together, made continue, made grow. I just want to say, folks, we have a fantastic event coming up for 2020. So please put it on your schedule at August 20th weekend. We're doing the first Independence Steel Pan Parade from City Hall to Liberty Bell, right downtown Philadelphia on that August 20th weekend. We love for everybody to be there. This year, what we're doing is a picnic in the park, which is the Children's Please Touch Museum grounds, August 22nd from 2 p.m. You guys are invited. It's a potluck picnic. Come on out if you can. If not, no problem. We can see you all next year. All right. So again, thank you all. This has been great. I'm not going to take too much more of the time because I know the whole lineup. Thank you for having me, and much success, everybody. Stay safe. We will get through this COVID, and God blessings.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for sharing your story. I certainly appreciate the shout out to St. Benedict's. And more than that, the continued reminder of the power, not just of music, but the richness of the culture and our heritage. And I know I'm just tossing this one out there for the ambassador. While I give Carmen Lipao, I'm reminding you that you're up next. I'm reminding everyone, please to try and stay within the time frame because I want everybody's story to be heard. But the tidbit that I want to pass on to the ambassador and the people who are members of TTDAN, Trinidad and Tobago Diaspora Associations Network, we know that there are schools that have steel orchestras in their local community. I think there's a county in Maryland where they have steel orchestras. I know that my daughter was accepted to a school, Oberlin. They have a steel orchestra. There are programs, Northern Illinois, various places. So maybe it's time for us as a nation, as a culture, to think about more collectively how we encourage the adoption of the instrument in other communities. When you try to do it by yourself, it might seem cost prohibitive, but who knows? I'm just throwing out there. Nobody can say I never gave away a free idea. Mr. Hodge, thank you for your time and for your story. I'm going to pivot now to a different part of the US. I'm moving now to the kind of Delaware area where we will hear from Mrs. Carmen Lipao. She is going to represent her organization, the association that she belongs to and she's very engaged in. That's the Trinidad and Tobago Cultural Association of Delaware. Most of the time, I just refer to it as TTCAD, but you know that it has a whole full name. So Mrs. Lipao, you and I go way back. So you know, if you see me turn on my screen, that's my gentle hello, hello. But we want to hear your story, and I understand that you have 2 or 3 stories. So I'm not sure if you're going to smush them all together or if you're going to try to do them as individual, but I am intrigued to hear your story. So the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes, man, I can hear you.
Yes, man.
How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good, good.
I tried to get stories from all my people, but they didn't give me stories, so I got from 3.
All right.
So I'm giving you 3. You want all 3 one time, or you want me to give you piece?
I will take 2 because I've got my eye on the clock.
You got your eye?
Decide who of the
all
2
right.
will be.
I'm going to give you them. I'm going to give you the 3, but I'm going to cut it back. How about that?
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
All right. Well, this is so wonderful. My first story is about a man that you all know. He's one of 12 children. He come from the bushes of Toco. He had to walk 6 miles a day, crossing ravines with mud, snakes, and hoping that the donkey that was tied to the tree wouldn't run him and give him a kick. But thank God the rope was not long enough to kick him. He did end up in the ravine though, with mud and water up to his waist. One night while sleeping, the rain was so heavy and the breeze was blowing. Guess what? His parents used to hang bananas over the roof where he was sleeping. And all of a sudden he feels thump, 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 thump. Is the right banana falling down? When he wake up and he look out, is half the house gone down the hill and he's sleeping with a set of bananas all around him with his other brothers. I tell you, that was something. But you know, each experience made him stronger. And he had a mother who insisted on getting a sound education for all her kids. as he studied by candlelight. He yearned for a better life for himself and his family, and he migrated to the USA, but no one would employ him. Guess what they asked? You have no American experience, we can't employ you. Well, how you gonna get American experience if so you don't get a job? Give me a break. But what he decided to do, he took control of his career and he went to Temple University while I stayed on working. You see, I got a transfer to Delaware, which is the home base of my company, Alico, American Life Insurance, as the senior international underwriter worldwide. So I gave him the opportunity to go to school in Temple, and he earned not only 1, 2, 3, 4 degrees. So everybody was running after the man now, you know, they're running after him. Good. But suddenly he was getting noticed, and he was approached by the president of one of the organizations in the state and was asked if he could bring together the diverse cultures, all the cultures in the state, to collaborate and present programs to improve the cultural understanding in Delaware. Guess what somebody asked us? Why are you going to Delaware? It's known as the best lit cemetery in the country. We wouldn't worry about that. It may be the best lit, but guess what? There was a lot coming out from Little Delaware, and we know what just came out of Delaware. We got a president, right? Okay. So we lighten bright and nice. But as the saying goes, behind every man is a great woman, and that woman was me. I was the one who was transferred to Delaware, and I am not the donkey who wanted to give him a kick, but one who supported him. And we know now the rest is history. He has met and he's been associated with several ambassadors, many of whom he has done work with. Today, he's working with so many nonprofits. But guess what? He ain't getting paid from none of them, but it's not the money. It's the value, it's the time that he loves to give back to people. You see, my other friend in Trinidad had many opportunities, but Trinidad did not have sufficient opportunities in terms of having more than one university. So he decided that he was going to move to the USA, where there was more competition of universities. And as the saying goes, they're coming to America, a new shiny place, they're making their bed, they're saving with grace, sitting far away, just hanging on to their dream. They made a move, and so their children would settle in the US, applying the US education. Well, they resigned their jobs, and they made a fresh start. He got a job. His wife didn't get a job right away, and I'm going to tell you who he is. But Mama got a job later on. But she used her time effectively to make sure her kids got into the best schools, and she educated herself and also got her master's. They all worked in senior positions. As a family, they represent the true motto: together we aspire, together we achieve. Yes, you know who we're talking about, the Simpsons. But wait, one more story to share, girl. This time, this one will take the cake. This is my adopted daughter, a bishop's girl, bright like hell. She decided she was coming to America. In spite of being so bright, she decided she was going to prepare herself for the snow and the very cold and windy state of Minnesota. That's where she was going to attend university, the windy and cold state of Minnesota. She's going to practice now. How is she going to overcome the cold? She decided to let her dad lock her up in a tall standing fridge. You know them tall fridge? You know what I'm talking about? For 5 minutes, 10 minutes, to see how she could acclimate herself when she reached to this cold country. But the old man forget his daughter was in the freezer, and she freeze, she butt off. She couldn't open the fridge from the inside. It had to be opened from the outside. By the time he get to her, after he was listening to his soap and steel band music, it was 45 minutes. The poor child was locked up in the fridge. She was stiff, almost as though she was dead. Poor thing. Anyhow, she was able to be thawed out after a long time. That was chaos galore, but thank God, she survived. Strong, stringy woman. But when she reached Minnesota, in the month of January. You know how it cold as hell. She had to take out her towels from the suitcase and made a scarf to put around her neck. Then she took another one and put it on her head to make a hat. Then she took a pillowcase out of her suitcase, put it on her head to make a nice, comfortable hat to help to keep her warm. But she was still cold. She pulled out some sheets that she brought from Trinidad and wrapped herself all around to help her to be warm. I tell you, she looked like a mummy. But she never gave up. Finally, the taxi showed up. And the man from the school came up with one big oversized coat that was able to wrap 3 women, herself and 2 other ladies from Nigeria that were going to school there to help to keep them warm. Well, you know what they say? Lessons learned. Read up on where you're going, plan what you're going to wear, but never give up. Today, she cannot be stopped. The hat she had on her head, that was a pillowcase that kept her warm. For her now, the sky is the limit. And no. She's reaching for the moon. After all, she's living in America. She's living successfully, and she's one you got to watch. She is my adopted daughter, my good friend, Merlin Bowen. So these are my 3 people. You know, they had a rough time, but they're showing people that Trini's got strength and power. Take it, girl, take it.
Well, girl, I ever with you now. I know all 3 names. I was able to figure out Mr. Lipo early, even before you identified yourself. And then I heard Simpson. I said, I know that name. And Merlin, Bishops, we'll take it. St. Joseph Convent get a big up. Mousiga get a big up. St. Bennett, Bishops will take a big up too. Look, the thread that I heard in all of those stories is each person's perseverance, regardless of the circumstances, and the gift of either a friend, a partner, a helpmate that helped them navigate and achieve. You know, I've known you and Mr. Lipa now for what, 2-3 years. There isn't anything that goes on in Titi Dan where Mr. Lipa and you can tell us or can't tell us some wise guidance from your own experiences with your own association or from your experiences of working with others across the land. But each person is doing their part to maintain their ties and their sense of self. You know, it's very difficult. We talk in a unique way. Culturally, we have our own beautiful lilt. So when we start to talk, we know to identify with each other. When we come to the PPK Fed or whatever, we can see each other. We can connect culturally from a language perspective and from an experience perspective. And then to come this far away from home and find each other and then work together for the benefit of our native land, that's what Caribbean people do. We don't just do for ourselves, we do for our neighboring countries and for the communities that we serve. So I want to thank you for telling the 3 stories. I certainly want to thank Mr. Lee Powell, Mr. Simpson, and Merlin for their willingness to share their stories. Looking forward to the next Parang, Pan, and Kai so that we will actually get to have in person. You will work at the door. I will work where I work. Mr. Lee Powell will do the national anthem at the beginning, and we will have a good time. Until then, continue to be safe, and thank you for sharing the stories. I'm going to pivot now to the next storyteller. You're welcome. Dr. Patricia Ann McLean from New York, representing the Trinidad and Tobago Nurses Association of America, Inc. Lots of stories coming out of New York, and lots of West Indians leave the Caribbean and land in New York and find a home in nursing. Only notice the first nurse to get the job was a Caribbean lady, yeah? I don't know which island, it didn't matter. What mattered was she was one of us, Caribbean American, to take the first choke when the vaccine was made available. So Dr. McLean, I am now going to yield the floor to you. She sent her story in the chat. I believe her mic and video is not working, so you may have to read it. Well, I have to see it to read it. What's up with that? You all are putting me to work, or they assume I could read. Let me see what's happening here, boy. Did she send it to the whole chat or just to me? Let me see. Okay. So what I'm gonna ask, wait, look, hold on. It just popped up there. Wait a minute. I see it, but I am only seeing I'm missing the top half of the story. Okay, let's see here. My mother's pearls of education. Now somebody is testing my tech skills. All right. As a teenager, and my reading skills. As a teenager in Trinidad, my mom, Marjorie Anita Andrews, unwavering beliefs in the promotion and support of education, at times, okay, what's happening here, seemed unrelenting and unfair. Oh gosh, they're really testing my skills here. Somebody might want to send that to me on my phone. That will make life easier because I'm having to manipulate the thing here. Oh dear. And that prevents me from doing the story justice. So if somebody in the background can get Dr. McLean's story and send it to me on my phone, WhatsApp 240-495-1672. I will actually be able to read it directly from there and function intelligently. See, because I am missing some lines. Some of my teenage female friends and schoolmates were able to go to parties, theater, movies, town and the beach, often inviting me to come along. But on the day of the occasion, I was likely to hear some excuses from mom. Because they tell you they're having a party, don't mean they invite you. Ooh, you know about that. Remember that you have to go to market on Saturday. Where is mother? To keep the focus on school and work, I guess this is mom's words of wisdom or encouragement. You know, you have to practice some more of that Pittman shorthand. Ooh, who doesn't remember Pittman? How many of those girls planning to get a secretary job with the government? Or you better find something to read. That, I think, is in the mom's playbook. Every mom has used those lines on us. Soon the invitation stopped. Oh dear. I want to move my thing down. Is anybody sending me the story? Mom's unspoken messages to them were, I suspect, you cannot participate. Lauren, we need to keep this. Okay, I'm gonna let them send it to me in my phone so that I will be able to read it straight and do it justice. That means Ms. Gail Montague, St. Francois Girls College Alumni Association. I hope you are ready because I'm going to swing to you while I wait for them to send me the story on my phone. So Gail from St. Francois Girls College Alumni Association North America, it is your turn to share your story. I'm going to yield the floor to you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I will make sure that I keep within my 5 minutes. I put my clock on to start. My name is Gail Montague. I'm alumni of St. Francois Girls College, Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago. I arrived in New York on one of the most unique days. I arrived a few days after the 1977 blackout in New York City. When I arrived, I asked my mother, why are you bringing me to a place that looked like the Beatum? And are you hearing me, Dr. Spencer?
Yes, I am hearing you.
Okay, good. And so I asked her, why are you bringing me to a place that looks like the Beatum? And she says, well, we've just had a blackout and this is massive mayhem. I had a ball that summer. That was the first time in my life I didn't have school. I used to ride a chopper in Trinidad. So my aunt gave me a Schwinn bicycle and I rode all over New York. Now in Trinidad, when the sun going down, you know it's time for you to come home and go to sleep. Well, in New York, the sun goes down 10, 11 o'clock. So I would be all over the city in between little alleys and visiting places that I've read about and wanted to visit. At the end of the summer, I had made a decision. I was attending college and I went into an open call at John Jay College of Criminal Justice. Why did I choose that institution? Because my father was a police officer in Trinidad and Tobago, and I figured why not carry on the family trait? So I went to John Jay and I sat through the interview. There were two gentlemen sitting to my right. One of them said to me, "How old are you?" I said, "I'm 16. He said, "Miss, I'm 3 times your age. Go back to high school." And I said, "But why would I want to do that?" He said, "Because you're too young to be here." So I took his advice and I walked from my house to the high school in my neighborhood. I signed all the documents, all the papers, and I went to high school. When I arrived, they looked at my last name, Monsegui. So they thought I was Haitian. And they put me in a class for bilingual education for the Haitian Creole speaking students. I sat there in amazement because I didn't understand Haitian Creole. And I started talking to the teacher in French. And I said, "I don't know what you're doing." He said, "All right, let's go." So as we were walking to the front door, parent was there and she was unable to speak English. So I heard her and I said, "Can I help you?" She said, "Yes." And I started translating for the guidance counselor in Spanish. So she said to me, "Wait a minute, you were just talking to that man in French. Now you're talking to her in Spanish." I said, "Well, I went in France where, you know, you had to take both languages. And if you can't speak the people in them language, you will fail. And you can't take a failing grade home to your grandmother because it's licks from your grandmother, your aunt, your uncle, your nenen, and everybody who coming through." So then they took me and they put me in a class for only Spanish-speaking students, because by now no one realized I speak English. I sat there and I communicated with all the kids from Nicaragua, Peru, Bolivia, Argentina, all of these Spanish-speaking countries, Equatorial Guinea. To this day, they are my best friends. Then they said to me one day, "Well, you know, we have to put you in special education because you're kind of slow." And I'm saying, "But wait now, I went to one of the top schools in Trinidad. How come I slow?" So they called my mom and they invited her for a meeting. And they told my mother, "Your daughter needs to go into special education because she's a mute." My mother turned around, "What stupidness you're telling me? What you mean she can't talk? She just talk a mile a minute when she's home." Young lady, what nonsense are they telling me? You know, my mother went from a straight Trinidadian and she forget she was in public. "Please tell me why you're not speaking." I said, "Well, mommy, no one ever called my name." She said, "What do you mean no one ever called your name?" I said, "Mommy, I have sat in the classroom and no one has ever called my name. So why would I speak?" You know, they tell you, speak when you're spoken to and answer when you're called. Well, that's how I was raised, because you don't dare raise your hand and start talking in school, trouble gonna catch you. So she said, "Okay." So they said, "But does she speak English?" My mother said, "She speaks, reads, and writes English." Now, this is not the only time that has happened. This has happened to me more than enough. And I will tell you today, I am now a bilingual special education teacher in the Board of Education of New York City. And I deal with the alternate assessment students. And you know what's the first thing I play every day? Pan music. You know what's the last thing they listen to? Is some soca or some pan. And my students look forward to the beginning of the day and the end of the day because they know they will hear real good music. I thank you for the opportunity and good evening.
Merci beaucoup.
Il n'est pas de quoi, madame.
So, hey, look, as she said, when you went to school in Port of Spain in a certain era, French and Spanish was required. You couldn't just say I opt out unless you were a bright scientist, and then they say physics and chemistry. And since I couldn't add to save my life, physics and chemistry was not in my future. So I'm quite satisfied to have learned French and Spanish all the way through high school and to undergraduate. Looky here, my friend, two things that caught my attention. Speak when you're spoken to, answer when you're called. All of us know that. All of us know that, you know. So we've heard it. It's ingrained in us. And even when you go into a foreign place, you're waiting for somebody to invite you to speak. Now that I'm older, I invite myself to speak. Carmen could tell you that, other people could tell you that. But the other thing that I found intriguing is the ease with which people decide that because you're not doing X or Y, the direction for you should be special ed. But I'm glad they pointed you in that direction, because it means that the parents of children who need special education services are guaranteed at least one person who is committed to the cause. I myself, as the parent of a high functioning child on the autism spectrum, always appreciate and applaud anybody who understands that children learn differently. And you see that music, we'll take it. Whether it's soca, whether it's the pan, you know, whatever it is. So I thank you for sharing your story. And I thank you for being open to whatever the universe had in store for you. Even when they said, send her to special ed, you didn't need special ed, but it introduced you to the community in such a way that you have now become an advocate and a teacher for children with special ed, you know. And I am sure Mrs. Brahma or somebody knows how to find you, because I will want to find you, because Trinidad needs some insight, some conversations around what is possible and how it can be done, and so on and so on. So that's another one for the embassy. They will not hire me back for this work, you know.
As I tell somebody, this was my 47th job, because as you know, in Trinidad, your grandparents tell you what you're going to do.
Exactly.
So my first profession was in criminology. I'm a licensed criminologist. I started off, I was betting play Tobago. As I tell people, I was a criminal investigator. I get good pay Tobago. And Mako I did. People used to say, but how come she see that? I said, let me tell you something. We used to sit in the gallery and watch all the neighbors pass. So I get paid to Mako, and I'm Mako good. And then when the time comes, I say, you know what? I always want to be a teacher, you know. And it just so happened that I was walking down by NYU and they handed out a leaflet. And I sat between two young ladies, one from Denmark and one from Spain. And they didn't understand English, and I was going back and forth translating. This lady came up to me. She said, touch me on the shoulder. Listen, you start in NYU tomorrow. Eh? I said, miss, I don't think so. See me in the fall.
But you were open to the movement. So I thank you for that openness. And now I'm going to take a full spin, a 360, and swivel on to the next storyteller, who will be Mr. Suknarain. Jeff Suknarain, representing Trinity College Alumni Association. Listen, all it don't get big up when Ms. Lorna talk about the book by Kim Johnson. And you know what it is? And the ambassador is a Trinity alumni, so that's why they get 3 representations. But Mr. Suknarain, you are now invited to share your story. And the floor is yours. We won't hold it against you that you're also Trinity College alumni.
Well, I hope you don't hold it against me that I live in Orlando, Florida, while you
oh
guys
gosh, really, dude?
are not so fortunate. But I come from the bush, Kelly Village, Caroni, to be precise.
Oh, wow.
But I was lucky that my 12 years of elementary and secondary education was in the Port of Spain environs. In fact, to be more specific, as you heard, I attended Mocha Maraval Trinity College, where I broke a couple academic records, but I don't like to brag too much. You wouldn't agree with me by the end of the talk, but still, in 1974, I was forced to leave school and get out of my academic pursuits because my father fell seriously ill and there was nobody to run the business. We had a business called Caribbean Pride Cosmetics with about 60 girls selling cosmetics door to door all over Trinidad and Tobago. I don't know how many of the viewers will remember those girls. And then we needed labels for those cosmetics. So we went into the printing business. And by within 20 years, we had become the largest and most diversified printing company in the entire Caribbean with 45 printing machines and 250 employees. During that time in 1982, we also started Harry Crete, which some of you know as the hardest hard, selling dry concrete in bags. But after 20 years in the family business as the managing director, I got a little bit frustrated with the intrigues of family business, and I decided to venture out onto my own and come to the States, where I was extremely fortunate. It's really only by the grace of God that I'm the only person I know that Stanford University accepted to do a master's degree in business, although I had no undergraduate degree. It took me 13 years in this country before I got a green card. But I'm convinced that Trinis could go anywhere and shine brighter than anybody or anyone else. I learned some interesting lessons as soon as I came to the States, though. You know, we Trini men have a lot of sweet mouths, and we like to mama guy or flatter or compliment the ladies. I don't know which of those three words you prefer. But when you come to the States, you know, in Trinidad, you have to call them darling and honey and tell them how nice their dress look and how you like their hairdo and so on and so on. But over here, they call that sexual harassment. So I had to learn very early to keep my tongue between my teeth. Another interesting thing I learned is that within a year of being in the States, I had 4 credit cards totaling 25,000 US dollars. But those bankers never saw my face nor even heard my voice. In sharp contrast to Trinidad and Tobago, where if I wanted $150,000 of a loan, I had to know somebody who knows somebody that know the bank manager. I had to go through a lot of rigmarole and visits quite a few times, and I had to come up with some heavy collateral. And in those days, I had no collateral in the United States, so I couldn't do that anyhow. And I was becoming attuned to the differences between Trinidad and United States. So after Stanford, I started a little business which grew continuously. And if you look at these wristbands on my hand, you've seen them in hospitals, amusement parks, nightclubs, in carnival bands in Trinidad. I started a little company 23 years ago, and in the last 23 years, we have made and sold more than 1 billion of these wristbands to practically every country across the globe. So when you hear about Angostura bitters being successful across the globe, we Trinis are not only successful with Angostura bitters, but we are successful with these wristbands. And 10 years ago, we set up a factory in Trinidad, which is one of Trinidad's best kept secrets, where we make millions of these bands and ship them every month in a container to Orlando, and from here we distribute them all over the globe. We have succeeded in getting all those customers largely because we exhibit our products at more than 15 major international trade shows every year. So I do a fair amount of traveling for that. And that's how we find and massage and convince new customers that they should come with us. And the name that we chose from the beginning was Price Chopper. And we say we chop a slice off every price because people like to know they're saving money when they're doing business with your company. So without much ado, thank you very much for your time and attention. I want to stay close to my 5 minutes allocation. And you can always reach me if you need to reach me through Joan Bram or the ambassador. Thank you and goodbye.
Well, so that was an interesting. I was sitting here talking to myself. I clicked the button, but it went right back. I was saying that's an interesting story. The most interesting part being You show a bandit that everybody has seen. Either you have been to a hospital, you have been to a fete. We are familiar with that. So we thank you for your ingenuity and for sharing that brilliance with the world. Once again, you know, I hate to say it, these Mocha men are just filled with all kinds of creativity and ingenuity. Who knew that kind of brilliance was resident up in the hills there? We talk badly of them, but the gentlemen of Trinity College are turning out to be stalwarts in every arena. So thank you, Mr. Supnarayan, for sharing that story and for reminding us that it's not where you come from. Everybody know about Kelly Village. It's not only where you went to school. We've heard of Trinity College. It's what you do with those two things and the resources and the resilience that you have that then takes you to different places and the contributions that you're able to make to society. So thank you. I have a wristband. I went to hospital last year, emergency room. Would never have thought that there were connections tied to Trinidad and Tobago. So thank you for that story. Thank you for sharing. I have Dr. McLean's story here. So I am going to share her story with us. So I apologize if you're seeing the top of my not quite bald head, or you're seeing a patch of hair, because I cannot read and look at you at the same time. So I'm going to read her story to you. My mother's pearls of education. As a teenager in Trinidad, my mom, Marjorie Anita Andrews, unwavering beliefs in the promotion and support of education at times seemed unrelenting and unfair to me. For example, some of my teenage female friends and schoolmates were able to go to parties, theater, movies, town, and the beach, often inviting me to come along. But on the day of the occasion, I was likely to hear some excuses from mom. Because they tell you you have a party, don't mean they invite you. Or remember you have to go to the market Saturday. And I'm sure that was more like, remember you have to go to the market Saturday, eh? Where is their mother? Ooh, that. To keep the focus on school and work, she might say, you know you have to practice some more of that Pitman shorthand. Or how many of those girls planning to get a secretary job with the government? And of course, you better find something to read. Soon the invitation stopped. Mom's unspoken messages to them were sent and received. The devil will find work for idle hands. That's the end of the story as written here. But it is signed by, submitted by Dr. Patricia Ann McLean, Doctor of Nursing in Gerontology. So clearly, whatever mom's message was, however unrelenting or unfair as it may have seemed at the time, it allowed space and grace for Patricia Ann to pursue her studies and to receive a doctorate in nursing science. And as the daughter of a woman who suffered from Alzheimer's, I know what it was to look for somebody who was skilled and knowledgeable in gerontology. So we thank mom for her words of wisdom, even though they may have seemed harsh at the time, because they allowed seeds to be sown in you, which you then took up and now you sow with others as you share your gifts and your knowledge and your skill in the area of nursing science, and particularly in the area of gerontology. So we thank you for that. We thank you for the story. I want to thank everybody for all of the stories. The truth of the matter is, Mount Open Story come out, and as the stories have come out, we have learned of the brilliance of our country, the brilliance of our cultures, the gifts that we each have. It is not where you start. It is what you do with your start and the journey and the roads and the paths that you have all taken, and how you have shared those with us. And we will go away and take some kernel and meditate on it, cogitate on it, and it may feed our souls in some particular way. But also, we thank you for your sharing of your gifts and the culture with the people that you serve, in the communities that you serve. And so for the storytellers, I want to tell you that each of you will receive a gift. It will be a game, compliments of the ambassador, And the game is aptly named Story Jump Out. So look for that to come to you. And again, we thank you for your generosity of time, your willingness to share your story, and we thank you for your courage and perseverance in sharing our culture, our gifts. That is wit, wisdom, language, going gentle, Mr. Gentleman, or going hard when you talk sewa, for all of that, the beauty that is us as Trinidadians and us as Caribbean Americans as we celebrate this month and the gift. And I got a ping just now that said Dr. Wayne Frederick was one of the nominees or awardees this year as a great immigrant, great American. We don't all have to get an award, but we do all have to be courageous in our sharing of our gifts. So I thank you for your stories, and certainly I'm going to swing it back now to Mrs. Joan Brahma. Lady, all your work me, but the stories were wonderful. And there was more to learn than I had anticipated. So thank you for the opportunity. I yield to you, my friend.
Thank you. So I have the honor and privilege of giving the vote of thanks. Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, thank you, thank you, thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule to bring us greetings this evening in commemoration of Caribbean American Heritage Month. Your love of country and caring for us, the citizens both at home and abroad, is evident in every decision that you have taken, and especially during this unprecedented global pandemic. Thank you for not only being a fierce defender of Trinidad and Tobago, but all of CARICOM. Ambassador Anthony Wayne Jerome Philip Spencer, thank you for your opening remarks. As the current coordinator of the CARICOM Caucus of Ambassadors here in Washington, D.C., I know that you have a very hectic schedule. However, I'm putting you on notice to be a part of the Story Slam next year, as I know how happy and honored you would be to represent your former high school. After all, we heard about Trinity College all night. Miss Josanne Francis, our panelist, as usual, what can I say? You rock, girl, thank you. Dr. Lauren Semper Scott, thank you for your wonderful introduction of all the storytellers. And guess what? I'm going to try to get Tyler Perry's phone number and have you starring next to Medea. For sure, for sure, for sure, I'm going to make it happen. What can I say about our amazing storytellers? I'm super proud of all of you, all the many accomplishments of our nationals. Keep flying our red, white, and black. Mr. Sekou Cox, Mr. Rodney Foster, Mrs. Lorna Green, Mr. Keith Hodge, Mrs. Carmen Lipau, Chrislyn Graves, Dr. Patricia Ann McLean, Miss Gail Monsigi, Mr. Jefferson Suknarine, who I had the privilege and pleasure of going to elementary school with. A special thank you to my colleagues at the embassy, especially Mrs. Christiane Stewart and Miss Chanel Best. And to you, ladies and gentlemen, in our viewing and listening audience, thank you for joining us in this celebration. May God bless you all, and may He continue to bless our beloved homeland of Trinidad and Tobago, all the islands of the Caribbean, and of course, your new homeland here in the United States. I thank you.